Jai.
Nandagori Vaishnavanda ki
Jai.
Das Thakur ki
Jai.
प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत
Jai.
सादि वंदे
Hari Bol.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Vaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Om.
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ॐ नमो भगवते
भगवते वासुदेवाय
Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Creation. Chapter 3, Krishna is the source of all incarnations, and verses 32 to 34. 32 first. Adha param yavyaktam avyuda gunavarmidam adhishtashuda vastutvam sajivo yat punarbhava. Adha param yavyaktam अव्यूढ़ गुण ब्रह्मिदम अदृष्ट शुद्ध वस्तुत्वा सजीवो यत् पुनर्भवा अतः परम यदव्यक्तम् अव्यूढ़ गुण संब्रह्मिदम अदृष्ट शुद्ध वस्तुत्वा सजीवो यत् पुनर्भवा. Yes, Sailija Maji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय यदा अध परम यदव्यक्तम अभ्यूढ गुणव्यूहिदम अदृष्ट्यासुरवस्तुत्वा सजीवो यद पुनर्भवाः हरे कृष्ण
जय श्री माजी.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय अतः परं यदव्यक्तम् अव्यूढं गुणबृंहितम् अदृष्टाश्रुतवस्तुत्वात् सजीवो यल्पुनर्भवा. हरे कृष्ण.
हरे कृष्णा. Yes, Melinda Maji.
Hare Krishna. अथा परं यद् अव्यक्तम् अव्युडगुणा ब्रह्मतम् अदृष्ट्रात् श्रुतवस्तुत्व
अदृष्टा अश्रुदा.
अदृष्टा अश्रुता वस्तुत्वात् सा जीवो यत् पुनर्भवः. Can I read?
Yes.
Atha, this, param, beyond, yat, which, avyaktam, unmanifested, avyuda, without formal shape, guna brahmatam, affected by the qualities, adrishta, unseen, ashruta, unheard, vastutva, being like that, saha, that, jiva, living beings, yat, that which, punha bhava, takes birth repeatedly. Translation. Beyond this gross conception of form is another subtle conception of form which is without formal shape and is unseen, unheard, and unmanifest. The living being has his form beyond this subtlety, otherwise, he could not have repeated births. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ji ki Jai. Purport: as the gross cosmic manifestation is conceived as the gigantic body of the Lord, so also there is a conception of His subtle form which is simply realized without being seen, heard, or manifested. But in fact, all these gross or subtle conceptions of the body are in relation with the living beings. The living being has a spiritual form beyond this gross material or subtle psychic existence. The gross body and psychic functions cease to act as soon as the living being leaves the visible gross body. In fact, we say that the living being has gone away because he is unseen and unheard. Even when the gross body is not acting, when the living being is in sound sleep, we know that he is within the body by his breathing. So the living being's passing away from the body does not mean that there is no existence of the living soul. Is there otherwise? How can he? How is there? It is there. Otherwise, how can he repeat his birth again and again? The conclusion is that the Lord is eternally existent in his transcendental form, which is neither gross nor subtle like that of the living being. His body is never to be compared to the gross and subtle bodies of the living being. All such conception of God's body are imaginary. The living being has his eternal spiritual form, which is conditioned only by his material contamination. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Next 33. Yatre me sadasadrupe pradishidve susamvidam avidyatmani kride idi tad brahmadarshanam. Yatre me sadasadrupe pradishidve susamvidam avidyatmani kride idi tad brahmadarshanam. Yatre me sadasadrupe pradishidve susamvidam avidyayatmani kride idi tad brahma darshanam. Hare Krishna. Yes, Sharajamadi.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। यत्रे मे सदसद्रूपे प्रतिक्षिद्धे सुसंविदा अविद्यायात्मनि कृते इति तद्ब्रह्मदर्शनम्। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. Yashimaji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। यत्रे मे सदसद्रूपे प्रतिषिद्धे स्वसंविदा अविद्ययात्मनि कृते इति तद्ब्रह्मदर्शनम्। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. Belindamaji.
Hare Krishna. Yatra me sad asad rupe pratishite swasamvida avidyayatmani krite iti tad brahma darshanam. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Snigdamaji. Snigdamaji. You're mute.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. It is sloka number?
Shloka number 33.
Okay.
33.
Okay, Prabhuji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yatre me sadasad-rupe pratisiddhi swasangvida avidyayatmani krute iti tad brahma darshanam. May I read the synonyms?
Yes.
Yes. Synonyms: yatra, whenever; ime, in all these; sat asat, gross and subtle; rupi, in the forms of; pratisiddhe, on being nullified; swasamvida, by self-realization; avidyaya, by ignorance; atmani, in the self; krite, having been imposed; iti, thus; tat, that; brahma darshanam, the process of seeing the absolute. Translation: whenever a person experiences by self-realization that both the gross and subtle bodies have nothing to do with the pure self, at that time he sees himself as well as the Lord. Purport: His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The difference between self-realization and material illusion is to know that the temporary or illusory impositions of material energy in the shape of gross and subtle bodies are superficial coverings of the self. The coverings takes place due to ignorance. Such coverings are never effective in the person of the personality of Godhead. Knowing this convincingly is called liberation or seeing this absolute. This means that perfect self-realization is made possible by adoption of godly or spiritual life. Self-realization means becoming indifferent to the needs of the gross and subtle bodies and becoming serious about the activities of the self. The impetus for activities is generated from the self, but such activities become illusory due to ignorance of the real position of the self. By ignorance, self-interest is calculated in terms of the gross and subtle bodies, and therefore a whole set of activities is spoiled, life after life. When, however, one meets the self by proper culture, the activities of the self begin. Therefore, a man who is engaged in the activities of the self is called Jivana Mukta, or a liberated person even in the conditional existence. This perfect stage of self-realization is attained not by artificial means, but under the lotus feet of the Lord, who is always transcendental. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that He is present in everyone's heart, and from Him only all knowledge, remembrance, or forgetfulness takes place. When living being desires to be an enjoyer of material energy or illusory phenomena, the Lord covers the living being in the mystery of forgetfulness, and thus the living being misinterprets the gross body and subtle mind to be his own self. And by the culture of transcendental knowledge, when the living being prays to the Lord for deliverance from the clutches of forgetfulness, the Lord, by his causeless mercy, removes the living being's illusory curtain, and thus he realizes his own self. Then he engages himself in the service of the Lord in his eternal constitutional position, becoming liberated from the conditional life. All this is executed by the Lord either through his external potency or directly by the internal potency. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Text 34. Yadyesho parada devi maya vaisharadi madi sambanna evedi vidur mahamni swe mahiyade. Yadyesho parada devi maya vaisharadi madi sambanna evedi vidur mahamni swe mahiyade. Yadi esho parada devi maya vaisharadi madi sambanna evedi vidur himni swe mahiyate. Yes. Sharjamaji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
Om
Krishna.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yadyesho Parada Devi Maya Vaisharadi Madhi Sampanna Eve Devido Mihimni Sve Mahiyade. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Maji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय येदेशो परतो देवी माया वैशारदे मति संबन्न एवेति विदुर्महिम्नि स्वे महीयते हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna. Yes. Signamaji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. यद्यश परता देवी मया वैशारदमतिः संपन्न एवेति विदुर्महिर्मि स्वे महीयते. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Milindamaji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. यदि एषोपराता देवी मायावैशरादिमतिः सम्पन्ना एवति विदुर्महिम्नि स्वे महीयते. Synonym:
Yes.
Yadi, if, however, Isha, they, Uparata, subsided, Devi Maya, illusory energy, Vaisharadi, full of knowledge, Matiha, enlightenment, Sampanaha, enriched with, Eva, certainly, Iti, thus, Viduha, being cognizant of, Mahimni, in the glories, Sway, of the self, Mahiyate, being situated in. Translation: if the illusory energy subsides and the living entity becomes fully enriched with knowledge by the grace of the Lord, then he becomes at once enlightened with self realization and thus becomes situated in his own glory. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ji ki Jai. Because the Lord is the absolute transcendence, all of his forms, names, pastimes, attributes, associates, and energies are identical with him. His transcendental energy acts according to his omnipotency. The same energy acts as his external, internal, and marginal energies, and by his omnipotency, he can perform anything and everything through the agency of any of the above energies. He can turn the external energy into internal by his will. Therefore, by his grace, the external energy which is employed in illusioning those living beings who want to have it subsides by the will of the Lord in terms of repentance and penance for the conditioned soul, and the very same energy then acts to help the purified living being make progress on the path of self realization. The example of electrical energy is very appropriate in this connection. The expert electrician can utilize the electrical energy for both heating and cooling by adjustment only. Similarly, the external energy, which now bewilders the living being into continuation of birth and death, is turned into internal potency by the will of the Lord to lead the living being to eternal life. When a,
Dasa.
when a living being is thus guided by the Lord, he is placed in his proper constitutional position to enjoy eternal spiritual life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandasya
Ajnanatimirandasya
Jnananjanashalakaya
Jnananjanashala
Chakshurunmilitam Yena
Dashunmilitam
Tasmai
Yena
Shri
Tasmai
Gurave
Shri Gurave
Namaha
Namah
Shri
Shri
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Manomishtam
Manobhishtam
Sthavidam Yena
Bhavidam Yena
Bhutale
Bhutale
Swayam
Swayam
Rupakadamuhyam
Rupakadam
Dadadi
Dadadi
Swapnadhikam
Swapadaham
Vandeham Shri Guru
Edham Sri
Shri
Guru Sri
Udapadakamidam
Udapadakamalam
Shri Gurun
Sri Guru
Vaishnavamsa
Vaishnavamsa
Shri Rupam
Shri Rupam
Sagrajadam
Sagrajadam
Sahagana Raghunathan
Sahagana
Vidam
Raghunatha
Sajivam
Tam Sajivam
Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam
Sadhutam
Krishna Chaitanya
Krishna
Devam
Chaitanya Devam
Shri Radha Krishna
Sri Radha
Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishagan
Vishaga
Vidamsa
Vedam
He Krishna Karuna
He
Sindhu
Krishna Karuna
Dinabindhu
Sindhu
Jagatpade
Dinabandhu Jagatpade
Gopesha Gopika
Gopesha
Kanda
Govindam
Radha Kanda Namaste
Namaste.
Bhaktaganja Gaurangi
Rangana
Radhe
Gaurangi Radhe
Vrindavaneshwari
Vrindavaneshwari
Vrishabhanusute Devi
Manasute
Pranamami
Devi
Harite
Pranamami Hari
Pancha Kalpadruvescha Kripa Sindhuvi
Sakalaparubhyascha
Evacha
Sindhudevaja Patitanam
Patidanam Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale
Bhutale
Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshadarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare Hare
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare
Ram Ram,
Krishna Krishna
Hare
Krishna Hare Hare Hare
Krishna,
Rama
Hare
Rama Rama
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Ada param yadavyaktam avyuda guna brahmidam adishta ashuda vastutvam sajivo puyat punarbhavam. Beyond this gross conception of form is another subtle conception of form, which is without formal shape and is unseen, unheard, and unmanifest. The living being has this form beyond this subtlety, otherwise, he would not have repeated births. Right. So, in verse 28, Krishna is established as a supreme personality, Bhagavan, without any doubt. This has been very detailed, very nicely elaborated and explained by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. Yesterday's class, we had discussed this to some extent. I hope you remember that class. It's better to hear it once more.
Prabhuji, please once more, Prabhuji.
No, last class, we have explained Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's explanation of the verse 28, Krishna Subhavan Swayam. Krishna is established as a supreme Bhavan without any doubt. He's quoting from various scriptures. This was detailed last class. We have posted that in the group.
Yes,
You can hear that.
yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Because we have to explain the once more, then the 6 to 7 verses are there after that.
Yes.
So now, when Krishna is accepted as supreme, people who is in ignorance may consider the Supreme Personality or the form of Bhagavan as God in their own imagination. Being in gunas, we are in gunas, and because we are in gunas, we impose or superimpose some form on Lord and think that that is the real form. It is arising from our ignorance only. We conceive the form of the Supreme Personality or Bhagavan in terms of our condition. Bhagavad Gita, once again, 9th chapter, verses 14, 15 and 16 explains this. Mahamanasa Kaunteya Devim Prakritimashidaha. The people, Mahamanas means great noble souls. They are always situated in the internal energy of Krishna. Devim Prakriti Ashidaha. Because Krishna is always situated in his internal potency. And when we take shelter of this internal potency, how bhajandi ananya manaso jnatva bhudadim abhyayam. When we worship Krishna, ananya manaso, without unchanging, eternal, in a very focused manner, ananya, without bringing anything else. Anya means other, ananya means without anything. Means single focus.
Without any?
Then we can understand who is Krishna, glorifying his internal potency. And then verse number 15 speaks about others. Jnana yajnana chapanye yajando ma vasade egatvena pratatvena bahuda vishudo mukham. Some people worship with jnana, worship themselves. They feel the self is God only. This is basically Advaitins. And then others, they worship the universal form of Krishna. People who are grossly ignorant. So this is explained, verse 29 to this to 31 is explained like this. It is called Etet Rupam Bhagavado hi Arupasya Chidatmana Maya Gunai Virajidam Mahadabir Atmani. So in this material universe, in this material realm, means all universes, composed of collective and individual universes. We are living in our Brahmanda, isn't it? So 14 words are there. We have our own Brahmanda. Like that, there are so many Brahmandas, so many universes spread over the material sky. And this material form, in this one, the material form of the Lord is imagined. Actually, the Lord has got spiritual form of consciousness, Chidatmana. Lord has got no material form and is devoid of material form, Arupasya. But because of ignorance, we conceive to have this form, gross form, which is composed of material gunas and elements. Mat Tattva to Bhadadibi. Bhadadi means Mat Tattva to earth. We have 24 elements starting from Mat Tattva up to earth, from the subtle to gross. We have explained this material elements so many times. So by this time, so you should be knowing this 24 elements starting from Mat Tattva. If you have any doubt, you just refer to verse 5 and 6 or 6 and 7 of the 13th chapter. Mahabhuda Nihangara Buddhi Avyaktameva cha Indriyani Dashegam cha Panchachendriya Choda. So the ignorant people conceive a material form of the Lord because they are always impressed by gigantic size. The more gigantic a concept is, more impressive it is and more convincing it is for the ignorant people. But this, as explained by Srila Prabhupada in his purport, this gigantic form or the Vishwarupa is not accepted, is not counted rather among the avataras or the 22 avataras, which have their origin from the spiritual world. All the avataras of Krishna, all the 22 avataras, they are descending from the universe, spiritual universe, while the universal concept, the Vishwarupa of Lord, conceived by the ignorant people, do not have any origin from the spiritual world. And how the ignorant people conceive the Lord? Srimad Bhagavatam brings out a nice simile for this. Yada nabhas meghanigo renuva parthivanile evam drashtari drashtavyam aropidam abudadivi. Just as unintelligent people attribute clouds to be sky and dirt to be air. If the color of the cloud is blue, if it is a fresh cloud, it will be blue color. If it is loaded with rain particles, then it will be dark in color. And according to a color of the cloud, sometimes you conceive the sky to be blue, sometimes the sky to be gray, sometimes the sky to be dark. But actually, sky has got no color. Same way, air doesn't have any dust, but when air carries a dust, we feel that air is dusty. It is like a person sitting in a pedestal, and he is called as a pedestal. Suppose a person sitting in the pedestal is called a pedestal. Same way, the universal form situated in the Lord is also called the Lord. The universal form is emanating from Lord. It is situated in the Lord. And when you see this universal form, we call this universal form as a Lord. You getting that meaning now? What is Vishwarupa? It is the whole material universes in one place, in one shot. It is situated on the Lord. So we feel that this material form of gross manifestation, the Vishwarupa, is a Lord. Is it clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Right? So this concept has to be understood very critically, because this is out of ignorance only. Like we feel that the sky is blue, the air is dirty, like that. We feel that the universal form which is on the body, situated on the Lord, is universal form.
Yes, Hare Krishna
What is?
Prabhuji.
Yes.
Actually, I read one passage where it is given that it is Viswarupa, universal form is only the imagination with all the material, his material energies, that external energies. But whenever we are thinking of Lord Surya Devata, we are thinking that you are in the eye, Sasi Surya Netra. So you are in the eye of my Lord. When we are thinking of moon, we are thinking that you are the Manaha, mind of my Lord, Viswarupa. Mana is the Chandra. So in this way, Prabhuji, we are thinking and relating the material energy to our Lord. It is given. But there is no such Viswarupa is there. It is only the imaginary, or it is the imaginary thing that.
Yes, that will be explained now. That will be explained.
Yes.
This is imaginary only. Because this,
Yes.
why imaginary? It is due to ignorance. Imaginary
Yes.
means illusion, isn't it?
Yes,
Illusion is coming from what? Illusion is coming from ignorance. Ignorance is coming from what? Tamas.
Tamas.
14th
Yes.
chapter is given, no? Illusion,
Yes.
ignorance, then tamas.
Yes.
So, ignorance is a product of tamas only. When you are in tamogun, naturally, you will imagine this. So what is controlled by the Lord is attributed to the seer or the controller. No, the Vishnurupa is actually controlled by the Lord, but you feel that the Vishnurupa is a controller. Like Maya is also controlled by Lord, but when you are inside Maya, you feel that Maya is everything. Like people conceive that the universes have been generated from Maya only. It is from Prakriti only. These universes have come. The modern scientists or other all the time also there are we have discussed in second chapter. So many philosophies are there. Asatkara, Satkaravada, Asat-Satkaravada. So a lot of things are there. Vaibhashikas. They conceive.
Exactly when we are sitting in a train, we are thinking that the side everything is going, but we are still.
Yes.
Actually, it doesn't happen. The train moves just like this Maya. Inside the Maya, we are thinking that it is only true and the Lord is.
Like you are in a station, you are sitting in a train, and there's
Yes.
another train also. When that train starts moving, you feel that we are moving.
Yes, yes.
There is illusion. So that is verse 31. Now this verse, this says that Ada param yad avyaktam ayuda guna brahmidam abhishta ashuddha vastutva sa jivo yat punartava. Now it is being clearly explained. Superior to gross form of gross universal form is that form which is invisible. Ada param yad avyaktam. Yada para. Ada means from that, which is that gross form, the gross visual form. There is another form which is a subtle form, which is called avyaktam, which is devoid of specific bodily parts. Avyudha guna brahmidam, avishta ashuddha sad. It is since it cannot be heard or seen or heard. This is like a subtle body of jiva, which is the instrument of rebirth for jiva. Now, what we have to see is the gigantic universal form. We see the universal form. There's a micro that is same form we are having for us as our gross body. It is a microscopic, our gross body is a microscopic unit of the gross universal form, universal or universal material universe. Because the composition of material universe as well as our body is a 24 elements. Same. One is gigantic in size, the universe is gigantic in size. We are very tiny. Our body is very tiny. But the composition is the same. Same way, the gross material universe has also got a subtle form. The jiva has also got a subtle form. So some yogis worship the gross form of the universe. Like we have seen the 15 verse of 9th chapter. Vishwarupa. They worship Vishwarupa. Some yogis worship the visible form of universe as a Lord. And other yogis worship the subtle form of universe as a Lord. But both the forms of Lord are not the Lord. That is very clearly given in Srimad Bhagavatam itself, 2nd canto, 10th chapter, verse 35, 2.10.35. It's called Amuni Bhagavad Rube Maya Tehi Anuvarnide Ube Abhi Nagrinandi Maya Suste Vivaschidam. Vivaschida means one person who is in knowledge. Vivaschida. Vivaschida means person who is not in knowledge. We heard this term both Vivaschida as well as Avivashchida also, the 2nd chapter. Remember the verses? Anybody remembering the verses?
No, Prabhuji.
Yami Mam Pushpida Majam. Yami Mam Pushpida Majam Pravadande Avivashchida. people, avivashtita means one who is not in knowledge, one who is not very strong in knowledge. They think that the flowery language of the Vedas, which is a Karma Kanda, they accept the Karma Kanda to be superior. Verse number 43 or 42 of second chapter. And same second chapter is in verse number 59, which saying, Yado Bikaundeya Purushasya Vivashtita, Indriyani Pramadini, Harandi Prasavamana. Here, Vivashtita means person who is very learned, very strong will, but even that strong will of a person is defeated by the stronger senses. So, Vivashtita means person who is in knowledge. Just an expression, that's all. Expression. Who that? The wise do not accept both these two forms of Lord, both those forms as a subtle form. Amuni bhagavate rube mayate anuvarnide ube abhi na grinandi. They do not accept both these forms, the gross form of the Virat Purush, nor the subtle form of the Virat Purush. They don't consider this as Lord himself. Lord is different from both these forms. Same way, the living entity, Jiva, also has this gross body. Which is this gross body? Which is the gross body of Jiva?
Panchabhuta, the body which is
Yeah.
made of Panchabhuta.
Yes.
And subtle is Mana, Buddhi and Ahankar.
Buddhi, Ahankara. So both the bodies are there. But is that a Jiva?
No.
Jiva is different, isn't it? Jiva is different from the gross body as well as a subtle body.
Subtle.
But because of the subtle body, what is the benefit of subtle body? It gives rise to more and more bodies.
Yes.
How? How the subtle body gives rise to more and more bodies?
Because it doing the karma, whether good or bad, and it gives birth to another.
No, when karma is exhausted, there is a vasana, residual effect is there, vasana. So this vasana is embedded in the subtle mind, subtle form of the subtle body of the living of the jiva. So when the subtle body, it leaves the gross body along with jiva, the jiva carries the subtle body along with the impressions and then enter into the next body.
Yes.
Because vasanas create this. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita itself, verse, I think, 8th verse of 15th chapter. How the transmigration of the bodies take place. Shariram yadavapnodi yachadi pramadishura gritvedani samyadi vayur gandhani vashayad. Ishvara here means Jiva. Shariram yad avapnodi yatshavi utkramadishura. When the Jiva leaves one body, Utkamadi means leaving or rejecting, leaving the body. Abapnodi means accepting another body. Gritedani samyadi vayu gandha vinashayat. Along with the subtle impressions, just like the air carries the aroma from a garden, same way, the impressions which is embedded in the subtle or psychological body of the living entity carry the living entity from one body to another to enjoy or suffer according to that karma. That is why we don't have remembrance of the incidents in our past lives, but the impressions are there which prompt us to do the action. According to our impressions, which is a residual effect of the exhausted karma, it prompts that living entity along with the subtle body to enter the fresh body and start the activities all over again. and these activities base is the impressions. Are you getting it?
Yes, yes.
Melinda Maji, Saraja Maji, yes, everybody.
Yes, yes, yes.
Prabhuji,
Yes.
one question. When you say subtle body, is it similar to consciousness?
No. Consciousness is a manifestation of living, the jiva. But the consciousness is always there. Now the consciousness is contaminated, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Contaminated due to material contact. Consciousness is always there. But the consciousness leaves. When the consciousness leaves, the old body is dead.
Mm-hmm.
But this consciousness, which is a manifestation of jiva, is very much there. And that is embedded in the subtle body of the jiva.
Mm-hmm.
The jiva leaves the gross body, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But it is in the subtle body. No, jiva is comprising of the consciousness part of jiva only.
Okay.
Jiva without consciousness is not possible, or consciousness without jiva is not possible. This both. Now that jiva, we call it a jiva. Jiva means living substance with consciousness. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, living substance with consciousness. Now this consciousness is in the due to contact with the material world or material realm, it is contaminated by the influence of the gunas.
Mm-hmm.
Now the gunas prompt you to do some activities, and when these guna activities are completed, exhausted, there will be a residual effect. This residual effect is called vasanas.
What is it? What is it called again? Can you repeat?
Vasana.
Vasana means impressions. Vasana means impressions.
Residual of karma.
Yeah, residual effect of karma. Residual. Suppose you you boil some butter, melt some butter,
Yeah.
then ghee is you transfer the ghee to one pot, but then still some residual will be there, no? Some ghee at that
Residual will be
bottom.
there. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
This is called vasana, called residual effect. This is called impressions. The impressions embedded in the subtle body. This is an impetus for the jiva to accept more and more bodies.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
So that is why it is said that Adhishta Ashruta, the Lord is Adhishta and Ashruta. It is subtle. Lord is subtle. The subtle form of the Lord is not visible. I mean, not Lord, the subtle form of the Lord, I'm sorry. The subtle form of the Lord is not visible. It is Adhishta and Ashruta. It is not heard, it is not seen. It is not like the form we are having. We have that gross form, can be seen. We can hear it also. But even that subtle form of the Lord is not the Lord, just like the gross body of the jiva is not the jiva, nor the subtle body of jiva is also not jiva. Like that, just like this gross body is a false designation, like man, woman, learned, unlearned, foolish, American, Indian, Hindu, Muslim, so many designations are there for the gross bodies. Then why do we need in a subtle body to make another designation? Because this subtle body is required for jiva to take repeated births. As long as the jiva is in the grip of these gunas, it has to take more and more births. So that is why the subtle body of the jiva is very much there. So repeated births will not be possible unless there is a subtle body. So when you die, when you leave the body, you leave the gross body along with the subtle body, you go into the next body. When you get realized, that will come in the next chapter, next verses, 2 verses. When you leave realize, then you leave both the gross body as well as subtle body. Then you become totally free, totally liberated. So the universal form of matter, Hiranyagarbha, Hiranya is called universal form of Hiranyagarbha, is a form of collective jivas, is called Hiranyagarbha. As a cause of universe is false. It is not the cause of universe. Cause of universe, Krishna himself, one himself, not the Virat form. So Bhagavan says that both these forms should not be worshipped. Both the Virat form as well as gross form, Virat form, and the subtle form of Virat form, Vishnu form, should not be worshipped. Just as the gross body of the Jiva as well as subtle body of the Jiva is not the Jiva, same way the gross universal form of the Virat form as well as the subtle form is not the Lord. Clear? Then how you realize this? As given in
Shamsundar form only. 200 and
and
Shamsundar form.
how it is realized? How it is realized is given in 33 and 34. Yatre me sadasrubdhuve pradishiddhe swasamvida avidyatmani krde idi tad brahma darshanam. Whenever a person experiences by self-realization that both the gross and subtle body have nothing to do with his pure self, at that time he sees himself as well as the Lord. These subtle and middle forms are an imposition in the soul due to ignorance. And how it is removed? By realization of the devotee. By the realization of the devotee, this ignorance is removed. So that is why Srila Prabhupada starts his Prabhupada saying that difference between self-realization and material illusion is to know that the temporary or illusory imposition of material energy in the shape of gross and subtle bodies are superficial covering of the self. When you realize this, till that time you are engrossed with that, you feel that you are the gross body, you are the subtle body. We will not accept that we have got some other form which is different from the gross and the subtle bodies. So how we can realize the self as well as how we can realize the Lord? Just when we realize the soul by removing the artificial designation of the subtle gross and subtle form, same way when the gross universal form and the gross subtle form of the Virat Purush of the Lord is removed, we can see the Lord also. So both can be simultaneous. Both can be simultaneous by rendering devotional service.
Yes, Prabhuji, what both are these? First thing is when we realize.
I mean, it can be simultaneous. Can be realized together.
Which two things?
The two things are no. The individual jiva is there. Then collective jiva means the material universe is there. The Vishwarupa is a gross manifestation of the gross material form, isn't it? There is Vishwarupa.
Yes.
And there is a subtle material Vishwarupa also. Both are not the Lord.
Yes.
Same way, our gross body and our subtle body are not jivas. Not getting?
Yes, Prabhuji.
We have a gross body, isn't it? And we have a subtle body. Both are not. We are not this. We are not this. Same way, the material universe, that the Virat form and the subtle Virat form are not the Lord.
Yes. When we realize both the things.
Yeah. Then by devotion, we'll realize both this. That is why when you it is said that when you realize Krishna, you will realize yourself also.
Yes.
Yasmin vijnate sarvam evam vijnanam bhavati. Yasmin vijnate. When you realize Krishna, then you realize everything. Our relation with Krishna also. When these two middle forms, gross and middle subtle, are removed, then you understand that you realize both ourselves and the Lord. This means that the non-material form of Lord is not removed. These forms are removed by realization. Samvida. It is what is a sosamvida. Pradishiddhe sosamvida. How this pradishiddhe means what is that? Nullified. What is being nullified? Our ignorance, isn't it? Or
Yes.
rather our impressions generated out of ignorance.
Ignorance.
That we are the gross body and we are the subtle body. That Lord is that Virat form and the subtle Virat form is the Lord. Both these concepts are nullified, which is the product of Maya, the Maya covering say, which will be realized by what? Swasamvida. Swasamvida means realization of the Lord, the devotees. Realization of Lord's devotees. Because these forms, our gross form as well as our subtle form, as well as Lord's gross form as well as Lord's subtle form, is imposed on the Jiva by the Maya. Because that we think that we are these gross bodies and we think that the Virat form of God is a Lord due to ignorance only. So it is Dehandranath Dehabhyaso Jivehi Avidyaya Na Tada Jagat Adhyasya Paramatmedi Yujyade. The imposition of body exists in the Jiva by ignorance, by identifying with the body. Ignorance is what? Mityahangara. When you are identifying yourself with the body. In this manner, the universe is not imposed upon the Paramatma. Same way, the universe is not imposed upon the Paramatma. When the removal of these two material forms, one can see the Brahman. So, what is this? What is this so-called devotion life? Srila Prabhupada explains this very nicely. Perfect realization is made possible by adoption of godly or spiritual life. And self-realization means indifferent to the needs of gross and subtle bodies and becoming serious about activities of self. The impetus for action comes from self only. Now, we explain this beginning of third chapter itself. We feel that activities are coming from, according to this, from Prakriti only. When Krishna says that the Jiva cannot remain even for a second without Karyadehi avashya karma sarve pradijay gune. Next sentence. He is forced to act by the gunas. Immediately, everybody say that the activities are coming from or what do you call triggered by the gunas only. When you look at the verse 3.5, न कश्चित् क्षणमपि जादु तिष्ठति अकर्मकत् कार्यदेहि आवश्यक कर्म सर्वे प्रकृते गुणे प्रकृतिजे गुणे. The living entity is forced to act by the force of the gunas. You will feel that the guna is the cause for activity. But that is wrong. Activity comes from life of jiva only. When the jiva is under the influence of the gunas directs his activities. That's all.
Yes, Prabhuji.
When the jiva is in contact matter, he is under the power of these gunas. The gunas dictate his actions. We know that. Our actions are dictated either by Sattva-guna, Rajo-guna, or Tamo-guna, isn't it? So we are forced to act by the gunas. But that doesn't mean that the activity is coming from the gunas or the prakriti. Prakriti is inert, we know that. Jiva is not inert. Prakriti is inert. Jiva, the word jiva itself means jiva. Srila Prabhupada, this impetus for activities is generated from the self. The impetus for activity is generated from self only. And that impetus for the self is generated from super self. Verse number 14 of 18th chapter. Adhisthanam tada karma, tada karta, karanam cha pradagvidam, vividascha pradakcheshta, daivam chaivatra panchamam. Which are the 5 factors behind action? Adhishtanam means the loose body. Karta means the soul. Karanam cha pradagvidam, varieties of the various senses, 11 senses. Vividascha pradakcheshta, pradakcheshta sometimes interpreted as air, life airs, or sometimes of Srila Prabhupada gives that what do you call it? Endeavors.
Yes.
Endeavors is generated when we are under the influence of gunas. The gunas trigger our endeavors, isn't it?
Yes.
Endeavor means impetus for action. When
Prabhuji,
we are under gunas, then the gunas is a trigger for action. So these are the 5 factors: the body, the soul, the senses, the endeavors, and the 5th factor is super self, Krishna, Supreme Personality, Paramatma. So actually energy, the life comes from Paramatma. It is transmitted to Jiva, and the Jiva transmitted into action through the life fires and the senses. And these activities are either controlled by gunas or by Vedas. Shastra. So that's why in this next verse is going to say, Sharira va manobhir yat karma parabhe nara nayam cha vivaridam cha panchede tasya hedava. The next verse, 15th of 15th chapter. Sharira vang manobhir. With the body, with our words, with our mind, whatever actions the jiva is executing, whether nyaya or anyaya, vivarida. Nyaya means when you do as per Shastra, that is nyaya. When you do against Shastra under the influence of gunas, anyaya. Whether nyaya or anyaya, all the actions are controlled by these 5 factors. So activity, actually, because life, super life is, Krishna is a controller of everything. Life is coming from Krishna. And being part of Krishna, we are also full of life. So impetus of action comes from Jiva, but the action itself in the material platform is controlled by gunas.
Prabhuji, one question. If Prakriti is inactive, then how come it's directing our activities?
It is a influence only. It is influence. It is not triggering this action. Because of influence, when you're coming to contact the influence, because of influence, we are acting as per direction of Prakriti. Prakriti itself cannot generate action. For generating action, there is life.
Okay. Mhm.
Prakriti
Prak-
have life.
Prakriti is only supplying, or it is only giving the situations, but only
It's only giving.
it is only the factor which is supplies.
No,
Purusha,
actually, no. Actually, this is also given by Krishna only. The
yes.
senses, the body, the life force, everything supplied by Krishna only,
Mm.
isn't it?
Yes.
Both the Prakriti as well as Jivas coming from Krishna. Now, the part of Prakriti is gunas, ahankara. That is the problem. This ahankara is subtly hidden. This ahankara controls the Jiva. A covering. This is called the Maya covering. And due to the covering of Maya, just like there is a tube light is going on, now if you wrap a red paper, the tube light will appear as a red light, isn't it?
Yes.
But actually, where is the light is coming from? Is it from the paper or from the line of the tube light?
Paper.
Now you cover it with yellow paper or white paper, then dark paper, the 3 gunas. White for Satugun, red for Rajogun, and black or blue for Tamogun.
Tamogun.
You cover this tube light with either of these lights, either of these color papers. The tube light will appear as yellow, white, or blue, or dark, whichever it is. So this gunas is covering the jiva only. Then when life, the jiva acts under the influence of gunas, the activities becomes material. And we think that the matter is actually the guna, the jiva is activated by the matter only. That which means life is coming from matter only. No. The Maya is only covering the life only. Life is coming from jiva only. Yes, Mataji? Melinda Maji?
Yes, Prabhuji, I got it. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So actually, life is actually everything is coming from Krishna. Life is also from coming Krishna. And since we are part of Krishna, we have life. But in the conditioned life, we are influenced by this Maya and our activities becomes material. Because of this ignorance of a real position of the self. This is called the ignorance. And when this covering of ignorance is this happens our lifetime, unless then we cultivate this proper culture, then the activities of self. What is this proper culture? Coming to contact with Shastra, coming to contact with the spiritual master, coming to contact with the saints. That is the real culture. That is the proper culture. And when the man is acting under this influence of these three things, triple S, Shastra, saints, and spiritual master, completely, all is not just in contact with this thing is not enough. When you are totally accepting these three things and acting under the direction of Shastra and spiritual master, then you become Jivan. Then you realize yourself, then you realize Krishna. Right? So next verse makes it even more clear. Yedi esho parde devi maya vaishardi madi sambanna eveti vidur mahimni sudhama swamhiyate. When Maya or ignorance weakens, the Lord bestows his mercy on Jiva. When does the Maya weaken? When you adopt the proper culture of life. Then the Lord shows his mercy to Jiva. Yes, this Jiva is trying. This Jiva is on the right path. He's trying his best to come back to me. So then Krishna will reveal himself.
He gives the knowledge.
Yeah. Then that Kathopanishad, there is a very nice verse. Nayam Matma Pravachane Labhyo Na Medhaya Na Bhuna Shudena Yam Evesha Vrinude Tena Labhyas Tasesha Atma Vivrude Tanum Swam. Nayam Atma Pravachane Labhyo. You cannot realize self by giving a lot of classes. Pravachan. Like I am giving a lot of pravachan. Am I getting any realization? No, it will not be possible. Why? Nayam Atma Pravajan Labhyo Na Medeya. Not through intelligence. Na Bhuna Shudena. Even by reading a lot of scriptures also, it is not possible. See? Yam Evesha Vrinude. But Krishna will not remove the covering. He will be still under the cover only. But whom he will uncover? Tasyesha Atma Vivrunude Tanumsa. Only the person him he selects. One who selects Krishna, how he selects? When the devotee is very, very sincere. Not superficially accepting this. When a devotee is completely sincere, that his ignorance, his miseries can be removed only by adopting this triple S and sincerely endorse Even though he may sometimes stumble and fall down, it happens. Yes, not that immediately you follow sincerely, you will be like, no, because of conditioning, we'll have the vasanas will act on us all the time. May fall down, but Krishna will help you that time. That is a help, that is a mercy of Krishna. In between, you may fall down, but Krishna will not let you go. Because you have shown your integrity and you have shown your dedication, your sincerity, and Krishna will be very happy with you. So Vishnu Chakravarti says, Vaishardi means the Lord who is very skillful. Visharat means, Visharad is an expert. Visharat. If you have studied that Hindi, the form Prathama, Madhyama, Rashtrabhasha, Visharada,
Yes,
Praveen,
yes, Prabhu.
and Vidwan, like that.
It is the PhD holder. PhD holder, Prabhuji.
Oh, you're PhD holder?
No, Visharad. Visharad means
Yeah,
the
Visharada, PhD or Visharada.
Yes.
Visharada.
Yes, yes.
Visharada means, yeah, one understanding that Visharadi means the Lord who is very expert in understanding what is beneficial for the devotees. So Krishna is having a desire that this devotee should be helped. And the desire of Krishna is always truthful to be carried out. So we wish that Krishna desires for us. Only when Krishna desires, only Maya will be removed. But Krishna should desire that Maya should go. Then Maya will go. And how Krishna will desire? When you are sincere. Because on our own, we cannot remove Maya. We will not. We will lose all the time. But when we are very sincere, Krishna will wish. And Krishna, when Krishna wishes, everything will happen. Everything depends on his wish. That's why Krishna will say, Krishna wills also. Whenever we say that, okay, let this happen, if you are Krishna, if you are willing, because ultimately Krishna will is the final. So Vishardi means Krishna, the Lord, who is very skillful in understanding the real beneficial, what is beneficial for devotees. Or Vishardi Mari can also mean the person who thinks of the Lord. Vishardi Mari, who thinks of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada gives us that meaning. And person always, by culture, transcend knowledge, when the living being prays the Lord for deliverance from the clutches of forgetfulness, the Lord, by his causeless mercy, removes the living entity's illusory curtain, and thus he realizes his own self. And is then what has happened? Sambanna evedi vidur mahimni swe mahiyade. Shila says, when he becomes enlightened by self-realization and thus becomes situated in his own glory. Vishnu Chakravarti is the such a person, the wise understand that he who is situated as a glorious position is worthy of worship. Sampanna ebedi vidur. What is Sampanna? Sampanna means enriched. The vidur means one who is knowledgeable. When the knowledgeable person thinks that that person is Sampanna because he has got Lord's mercy, then he should be glorified. A sincere devotee who becomes very enriched because of knowledge endowed on him by the Lord, then he becomes very glorified. He is situated in his own glory. Or the knowledgeable persons will think that he is to be worshipped. Whichever meaning, both the meanings are right. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Any
Thank you.
Manchakaparivaschya Prabhasandevacha Udanam
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavibhyo
Namo
Namaha
Ananta Koti